All right, forget everything you think you know about climbing the Dota 2 ranks. We're not going to analyze hero picks. We're not going to talk about grand strategy. We're going to talk about the one invisible force that truly defines the entire journey, and that is the player's ego. The way to rise above all this is to literally rise above it. Now, this might sound like a riddle, but it's basically the central challenge you have to solve to climb. It tells us the real battle isn't happening on your screen, it's happening inside your own head. So let's start climbing and see what that really means. Our journey starts at the very bottom, down in what we're going to call the foggy foothills. This is where a player's ego is kind of unformed. It's almost non-existent. And that's because, down here, players are barely even aware of how complex this game really is. So welcome to the world of Herald and Guardian. What's so funny about the Herald rank is who you find there. You've got your brand new players, totally makes sense, but then you have the based player, right? The person with over 15,000 hours who just clocks in to play like a complete moron, day in and day out. You honestly have to respect the dedication. And then there's the third type, the player who is genuinely trying to get better and is just failing spectacularly. And this, right here, tells you everything you need to know. Forget about complex item builds or strategy. We are at a level where people might not even know about the most basic item in the game. It's this beautiful, chaotic place where the ego hasn't even had a chance to show up yet. So once you claw your way out of Herald, you land in Guardian. And here, you know the rules, but you don't really know the reasons behind the rules. You know taking towers is good, but you can't really explain why it's good. And that creates this feeling that every single game is totally random, just a roll of the dice. It's like you're following a recipe, but you have no idea what any of the ingredients actually do. So how do you escape these foggy foothills? Well, it's not with some 200 IQ strategy. It's with pure brute force. You pick one hero and you just spam them over and over again. And through sheer repetition, the game's logic starts to kind of soak into your brain. You're not studying, you're not trying to learn, you're just accidentally developing fundamentals. Until one day you look up and realize you've stumbled out of the fog. Okay, now we reach the most treacherous part of the mountain. This is where the real psychological journey begins. This is the stage where a little bit of knowledge becomes a very, very dangerous thing for your ego. So here's the deal with the ancient bracket. Everyone here understands on some level how to win a game of Dota. When they pick their hero, they have a plan. The problem? You've got 4 other geniuses on your team who also have their own perfect plan. And trying to get those 5 perfect plans to work together, it is next to impossible. So everyone is supremely confident that their own plan is the right one. But here's the real question. Should they be? Is that confidence actually justified? And that question gets us to a classic psychological bias that defines this entire bracket. And here it is, the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's this idea in psychology that describes the exact moment where your confidence just massively outpaces your actual confidence. You've learned just enough to think you've learned everything. The ancient bracket, it's the absolute picture-perfect embodiment of this. It is quite literally the peak of Mount Stupid. And this quote just captures the mindset perfectly. Yuragi is a top-tier professional player, and yet the average ancient player genuinely believes they have that level of skill, and it's only their terrible teammates holding them back. It's this incredibly inflated ego that blinds them to their own mistakes, and it's the single biggest thing stopping them from climbing higher. So to climb any higher from this peak of false confidence, you can't just get better at last hitting or team fighting. You have to go through a really painful psychological transformation. You have to fall. This next stage, the divine bracket, is all about a necessary ego death. And this is the huge shift you have to make. All those habits, that absolute certainty, that I know best attitude that got you this far, it's now your worst enemy. To actually progress, you have to kill the Dota player you've worked so hard to become. You have to destroy your own ego. And the change in mindset is just, it's stark. The ancient mindset is totally rigid. My plan is correct, and my team is the problem. But the divine mindset, which is born from losing over and over again, is all about adapting. You finally realize that you have to let go of your perfect plan and just work with the team, or you're going to lose forever. It's a brutal but necessary lesson in humility. And this, right here, is the core lesson of the divine bracket. This is the final death blow to that individual ego. It's realizing that 5 people working together on a bad plan is infinitely better than one person trying to execute a perfect plan all by themselves. This is where you actually learn what it means to be part of a team. So you've done it. You've killed your ego, you've learned humility, and you've finally reached the shiniest medal in the game, Immortal. You're at the summit, but as you stand there and look around, you realize, with this shocking clarity, that the real journey has only just begun. Yep, you heard that right. You think you've climbed the mountain, but really you've just reached a base camp. And now you can see an even bigger, steeper mountain ahead of you. The gap in skill between a brand new Immortal player and a top pro is as big as the entire journey you just took from Herald all the way up. The whole scale of the game just completely changes. And this is the final, ice-cold reality check. If you show up in Immortal with even a tiny bit of that old ego left, the game will absolutely crush you. That humility you learned back in the Divine bracket, that wasn't a temporary lesson. It is a permanent state of mind you need just to survive at this level. Which, of course, brings us to the ultimate question. If you get to the peak, only to find out there's an even bigger peak, and the reward for all your hard work is just realizing how little you actually know, then what's the point of any of it?
And here's the answer. This is the final evolution of the ego. It completely transcends the need for a rank. Your goal is no longer about winning. It's not about making that number go up. It's about the pure process of mastery. It's about accepting that to really learn, you will lose, you will fail. And your new goal is to embrace that, to actually enjoy the learning that comes from defeat. Because the climb was never about the rank. It was about transforming your entire relationship with the game itself.